So when it comes to developing something like a vision for your working life, for how you can make money with this, how you can actually thrive through all the things that you have learned and through your rarefied energetic perceptivity, whether or not we can be successful with energy work here in our life has a lot to do with authenticity and embodiment. And there's a lot of jobs in this world that we can do without needing to be authentic. Okay. I mean, we can all make a lot of money with just some skills that we've accumulated, be it through, college training, or talents that we have. But they don't necessarily lead us to feeling fulfilled or feeling authentic. And with energy work, there is this advanced difficulty level, namely this embodiment aspect, which means we have to, in order to become a successful sort of implementer of energy work, we have to really feel this ourselves, to allow this to go through us. We don't have to absorb it. We don't have to be afraid of taking on the things that we're feeling, but we need to know what we're feeling. And this is then the foundation for us to align to our own authenticity. And this happens on an ongoing level, sometimes, 50 times a day if needed. Adjustment, a realignment, a shift, a reset. We've found many different ways to express this. But looking at the business aspect of this here and introducing you to a more sort of broader perspective on how this could actually be converted into a vision for your own way of making your living, I want to point out a few things that are drastically changing right now in our societies. And this is not just based on my wishful thinking. This is actually something that today I can clearly see. 20 years ago, when I became interested in this business, and 10 years ago, when I actually started implementing it, it wasn't as obvious, but now it is. Our societies are changing in ways that are still, for many, not even clear yet, but it will literally change every single value that we have been raised with, okay? And this will put our societies into a place of very strong, transition, very strong security and so forth. This is happening right now. One of the leading aspects of that is that with increased automation of work, okay, people will have more and more time. Okay, so this hard labor work is now on the brink of being replaced through robotics, through artificial intelligence, and you will see this happening within the next 5 years, guys. Smartphones, iPhone has only been there for 10 years. Remember how fast this went from flip phone, and just using it occasionally, to now sitting on your phone and literally spending 6 hours a day or more on your phone. This transition has only taken 10 years. The changes that are coming now are going to go even faster. So within the next 5 years, we're going to see drones, we're going to see things like this in our daily lives. And there'll be complete changes in the job market everywhere. Different kinds of job descriptions will occur. Obviously, some job descriptions will fall away. Just keywords here: self-driving cars and so forth. There'll be so much that will change here in these next 5 to 10 years. That just as a consequence, will change what people need and what they want. This is what I mean with the value. So there'll be more time for people to be with themselves, and they're going to have to find ways to be with themselves, because in the past, just through, say, this labor intense work that was needed to make living, and this shifting now, people will have to learn to be with themselves again, and they're going to have to find a meaning and purpose through living together, not only because we have more and more people on this planet, but also because we are realizing now how the world is growing together. It's becoming a really small place through all this globalization. It will also bring in more time and more need for self-care, right? So self-care, not just in grooming and things like this, but also really, this the awakening that people are experiencing has something to do with time, because it has something to do with the time that you have to actually even think about things or be with yourself. And so self-care then is the next consequence. There'll be a whole new industry, guys, that is linked to self-care and self-awareness. And I'm talking multi-billion industry. It's already there. Okay. In the past, it's only been driven by performance, by trying to be better, to have more power and be more control. So it's been traditionally people who wanted to squeeze out even more. In the future, a need that will arise in everybody. Okay. Higher learning, same thing. There is no value in information anymore. It's freely available to everybody. So the next level of learning will be a different kind of learning, namely learning through transmissions is the new way of learning. In 10 years and 20 years from now, you're going to be amazed how early you were, how much of a pioneer you were by feeling attracted to this at a state where people were still laughing about this. There'll be more need for truth and integrity altogether. This is the social development here for the last 30 years anyway, which is why we see all this revelation of untruths and non-integrous stuff in business, in politics, environment, everywhere. And this will go into implementation now. I predicted this 10 years ago that businesses that continue to use non-integrous business methods will not be able to prevail. And you see this here in the United States, very obvious, but even in the UK and Europe, very, very large companies that nobody ever thought would go bankrupt are now no longer able to prevail. Then a different way of togetherness will develop. This has to do with us having more time together, also in times of uncertainty, in times of change. People, this is a normal human tendency. They remember family more, they remember community more. So we're going to move closer together. We're going to seek support and collaboration more, which is a great development because it will help us to, as a society, to develop out of this sort of individuated, superior individualism into an individuated collectivism, so to speak, where we learn to be a sovereign soul, a sovereign, personality within a collective, whatever size that is. That can be our own family, our own relationship. It can be our village. That can be whatever group level you want to see this. And another thing that is drastically going to change is the way people envision. Okay, these are all massive, massive changes that are ahead of us, and we need people who help other people with this, be it in the sense of emotional regulation, physical regulation, intellectual regulation, or visioning. Okay, the problems that are existing on this planet today, they can no longer be resolved with the tools of the old sort of evidence-based paradigm. They are more complex than that, and that's why they require more complex solution tools. And this is something that you've been trained in without you even knowing this. So what this basically leads to is a whole new way of learning, and this is something that I've created here a few years back. This new pyramid of learning. So this lower pyramid here is the cognitive learning. So this has to do with our neurology, with how our brain is structured. And I know you can't read this right now. I don't want to reiterate this. I want to focus on this new way of learning. And this is basically the development of our etheric brain. This is what you guys have been doing here throughout your own self-healing journey. You've been attracted to this without even knowing what it is that you are attracted to. And I want to give this a bit more context here for you. And this is tuning into your energetic sensitivity. You know, everybody's awakening to this now, and this isn't anything special. This is a shift in our own energy that happens when we realize that we are energetically sensitive. And out of that then comes the necessity to develop these different layers of higher learning. Okay, and the first level of this is learning how to tune into one's own heart field. So we address this primarily with the Sacred Self-Healing course, because there, you know, it's mostly about allowing things, finding your own center, and certain levels of self-reflection. Then comes the whole mindfulness section here of our higher learning, is where we learn to work with things such as meditation, grounding, centering, clearing. We're learning how to calm our nervous system down, breathing, yoga. All this has to do here with self-regulation on a 3D level. Okay, so mindfulness addresses the 3D regulation in us, our body, emotions, and mind. And it allows us to tune into something, or develop a reference feeling for our present moment awareness. And out of that then comes a new level of energy awareness, a new level of self-awareness, okay, which then comes with new levels of self-responsibility. We've talked about this last time a little bit. This is when you begin to realize that, oh, even just simply the awareness of chakras and energy regulation, right? You begin to see like, oh, with reading all those inner signals that we talked about earlier, oh, I have an imbalance here, maybe left or right, masculine, feminine. Oh, you know, my first chakra is really clogged, or I'm really ungrounded, or I'm projecting too much. You begin to recognize these things as just sort of that states, okay, and you begin to become aware of energetic interaction between you and other people, and how this energy awareness now changes the way you see things. You see other people and you see yourself in it. This is, guys, this is where you're at right now. Okay, you are now beginning to realize the reality of that, and it does something to us when we enter this level of self-awareness, and that is that we begin to see that we have a lot more choices, but also more self-responsibility, right? Because just sort of resting on our victimhood, or on our struggle in the past, and our trauma, and so forth, isn't enough, right? I mean, we can choose that, that's fine, but here at this level, this is where we choose. Okay, am I going to stay in that passive and let that dominate my energy, my energetic state, my perceptivity, or am I choosing to do something about this? And this is then sort of the next level here, where we go into I like calling the soulfulness, where we begin to actually learn to operate on this etheric level, now in full awareness that we are a soul with a body, and not a body with a soul, and we're etheric. This is just a word, describing sort of the energetic reality of the unseen, okay, is now just as real as the 3D reality, and where things such as navigating energies, locating energies, energetic protection, and also the overall state of our energetic immune system becomes priority. It becomes a priority because we are now, through this higher learning, recognizing how all this is interconnected, and how without the one we can't do the other, and that is to thrive, to expand, to grow into higher levels of authenticity and embodiment. And on the pathway to that, we are now, entering, the reality of self-healing, of experiencing ourselves as a self-healer, namely through simply applying all of this. All right, so we identify in an energetic state. We know how to feel this, how to counteract this, how to shift our energy, how to balance, how to go into more abundance, how to go into our I am presence, and how to tune into our inner guidance, our inner knowingness, as opposed to relying on our cognitive learning and our knowledge, which from this perspective now seems really inferior, okay, because we recognize the linearity of it and the restriction of it. And as we bring this into our reality, as we begin to self express this, to actualize this, we are now literally experiencing what this means to be a soul with a body. We recognize that we are connected with the greater all, you know, the divine Wi-Fi, as I call this at all times. We recognize that when we are consciously tuned in to this, that we have precognitive abilities, that we can tune into something like our future self, that we can rewrite our past, where things really now become non-linear, and we become comfortable with this and develop levels of gracefulness with it. So out of the necessity to become more congruent with all parts that we are now developing a higher consciousness that allows us to see the world with completely new eyes. And this is basically the roadmap, guys, of all the different stages of learning to becoming a soul self. This is what you are being pulled into. You are being pulled into your own future, into your own soul self, if you will. And these are the different stages that we all go through. The lower pyramid of this, right? This is what you study when you study to become a psychologist. And this is where this leads to. Okay, so this is completely unexplored. There's one of my visions, you know, to be able, in conjunction with other people, to create a curriculum for these energy therapists, energy psychologists in the future. It makes you curious. This is also something that I noticed is really, really important for us, to stay curious and to understand there's always another level. And what we mean with this is that there are levels that we haven't explored yet either. Okay. But one thing we've accepted, and that is that there's always another level. We always need to stay curious, always need to see that there's so much more. And we don't need to master it, we don't need to control it. We're just here to explore it. It's the cool thing about our 3D-ness. You know, we just need to be careful with not getting too mesmerized, too fascinated intellectually, because that's an ego trap. Okay, so every time you get fascinated, when you have these moments where you get a vision in, or you have a very clear energetic perception of some sort, and your ego goes, oh, this is really cool, and plop, there it goes, now it's gone. You lose it the moment you allow your ego to latch on. So it's a continual balancing act, allowing yourself to receive and then implementing, you know, without trying to control the outcome, without trying to control this too much, to stay in that openness at all times. So how could this be translated into a business, into ways of making money? Obviously, you know, you're seeing various examples of that out there already. Some good examples and a lot of not so good examples. But see, this is now where your personal higher learning has to kick in, you know, where you feel from within your own authenticity and your own prompting, you know, what it is that you feel that you can translate as your medicine. You know, there's different kinds of energy work out there that are needed right now and in the future, some of which are more focused on helping people to connect with the heart space, connect with, the present moment awareness. Some of them will be in conjunction with helping people to clear, how to release things, how to go, and this can be translated in many different ways, be it through talking, through body work, through energy work techniques, shamanistic techniques, and so forth. Then integrating, this is where, a lot of the psychology, the counseling, the therapy, and especially the coaching comes in, helping people to develop a practical roadmap to actually, translate it into their 3D lives and not just leave it there as a intellectual concept. Then those that will be attracted in this higher learning, this meta learning that can occur. And this is something that attracted me, guys. This is where I came from. I recognized that there's so much more information out there. The more I knew, what I didn't know. And yes, of course, my ego was involved in that in the beginning. But the farther I went on my own journey, the more humble I became about this. And then some of you, will be attracted to things that have to do with training, specific things, or just helping a person to get through the first hump of discovering energies and all these scary things, right? To feel safe within their own skin. And some of you will be attracted to the visioning aspect of energy work that can help. Actually, there's a few examples here that I've made for you that can help others. It can help people, it can help organizations, it can help companies. There's a lot of business in these areas, guys, how to help people to tap into their own higher levels of creativity. So the different kinds of energy work that can be developed from this, and these are just a few ways that I can see them right now because they work. So those are working models. Here are some examples for energy work businesses are individual healing or coaching sessions, group healing sessions such as transmissions, training, education, or self-help courses, combination of energy work with traditional therapies. This is very up and coming. For any one of you already a practitioner, integrating energy work will be a huge edge for your therapy business in the future. And combination of energy work with products. Again, here, something that you might not be able to see yet, but I've already seen this work. So there's a way to energize products, and even to combine this with now teaching a person something as they're using the products. It's very, very cool what can come through this. Workshops and retreats, obviously, of all kinds, utilizing all different kinds of therapeutic measures, be it body work, dancing, or sound healing, or tuning into arts and crafts, or it doesn't matter what it is. There's no limitation of what can be healing for a person, what can help a person to shift their energy. Corporate visioning and team building, huge business, guys, for those of you who are sort of more familiar with the corporate world. Implementing energy work here, this might seem far off, but you'd be surprised to know how some of the world's biggest companies, especially those with newer technologies, but even things like automobile industry and big communications industries, how they are already integrating this. Okay, they already have meditation rooms, they already have job descriptions within the organization for mindfulness. There is no limitation to this, especially when it comes to visioning. This is generally accepted in the high sort of productivity area, that creating the right energies, the right spaces for certain leadership teams and research and development teams can increase the idea finding and solution ability. This all needs to be facilitated, guys. These are all job descriptions of the future. Obviously, public or motivational speaking, one big area, easy to be translated, for instance, in sales training. Energy work and sales training has been done for a long time already and is very successful there. But it could also be translated, for instance, in consulting services, like helping people or organizations to optimize spaces. Feng Shui is one of the beginnings of that, but to clear spaces, to rearrange spaces, to help employees or individuals to up the vibe of the energy around them, or the healing spaces. Is a huge business. Like the last 10 years was mega successful was this, I forgot her name, this Japanese lady that is teaching how to declutter things and organize and sort of become OCD about things, right? Well, the next movement, guys, is going to be the other direction. This is how to create healing spaces. And, you can make a name, can make yourself a name in this. Those of you who have this preference and who feel that you have a talent there, huge business, interior design, all these areas. And last but not least, of course, community work, helping maybe underprivileged people or working for organizations that want to up the vibe of a whole community, of a whole village or a whole community center. There's many different areas in community work. I keep mentioning this. Urban food supply is going to be a big one. Urban energy supply. Those are things. There's going to be a very high demand in the future. Those are all just examples of how energy work can be translated. Aside from just the very traditional route, of seeing yourself as an energy healer. You don't have to call yourself energy healer or energy therapist or any of this. You can apply energy work in many, many different ways. And you can find your own word for this. Being an energy practitioner is not licensed yet, which gives you guys a lot of freedom. It will be licensed in the future. So this is also part of my vision to create sort of an accredited system that standardizes that. Because there obviously, as you've learned, there's a lot of ethics and integrity and safety measures that are needed. This concludes a quick preview into how this can be translated into an energy work business.